The alien cruiser appeared with the suddenness of a nightmare. Vast, angular, its hull bristling with weapons and insignias of a power that spanned 100 star systems. Its shadow eclipsed the tiny shuttle, swallowing it whole in a cast of steel-gray light. A voice crackled through the human ship's comms, dripping with arrogance. "By order of the Galactic Empire, you are seized. Surrender all systems. Resistance will be annihilation." The father closed his book. His hands, steady and unhurried, marked the page with a torn slip of paper. His eyes, pale gray and deceptively mild, flicked to his wife. She met his gaze and gave a small nod, her fingers brushing the dog's head as though reassuring herself more than the animal. The boy stopped shuffling, his hands trembling. The little girl clutched tighter to the mutt, whose low growl vibrated against her ribs. The father spoke softly, calm as a still lake. "It seems we have company." His tone was apologetic, like a neighbor confessing he'd parked too close to someone's gate. He tapped the comms and replied with perfect politeness, "Acknowledged, sir. We'll cooperate." His words carried no heat, no defiance. Just civility. Magnetic clamps locked on with a thunderous jolt, rattling every bolt in the human ship. The shuttle shuddered as it was dragged into the belly of the Empire's cruiser. The lights flickered once, then steadied, bathing the family in pale glow. The boy swallowed hard. "Dad," he whispered, "what do they want?" The man gave a faint smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Tribute, son. Empires always want tribute. Let's not give them more than they expect." When the airlock hissed open, the Empire's soldiers swarmed like carrion birds. They were reptilian in form, scaled hides glistening under the ship's sterile lighting, mandibles clicking as they barked orders in guttural tones. Their commander stepped forward, towering, armored plates polished to mirror sheen. His eyes were slitted with the satisfaction of a predator who believed the hunt already over. He surveyed the humans with disdain. The father, tall but relaxed, hands visible and unthreatening. The mother, modest and watchful, her hair braided back. The boy, restless but trying to mimic calm. The girl, too young to mask her fear. And the dog, baring teeth in a silent snarl. The commander sneered. "So fragile, so soft. And this? A beast? You bring vermin into space." He aimed a kick at the dog, but the father's hand rose ever so slightly. Not threatening, just a gesture of restraint, as though he were the one permitting mercy. The commander paused, unsettled without knowing why. The dog growled again, eyes locked on him with uncanny focus. "Take them," the commander barked, breaking the moment. Chains of energy snapped around human wrists. The boy winced, the girl whimpered, the mother lowered her eyes. The father thanked the soldiers, thanked them for being gentle. Their laughter rang out sharp and cruel, echoing in the steel halls. Through corridors of cold metal, the family was paraded like trophies. Alien crew paused to gawk, an insectoid deck officer clicking mandibles in mock applause, a slug-like engineer whispering, "So these are humans." The dog snarled at each of them, straining against the pull of its leash. "Quiet, Max," the father said softly, voice gentle, as if chiding a child in church. The dog sat, but its gaze never wavered from the aliens. They were thrown into a holding cell. The door sealed with a heavy clang. The walls hummed faintly, lined with suppression fields meant to break wills as much as bodies. The boy tested them with a fingertip and yelped at the sting. The father guided his hand away, murmuring, "Patience. Always patience." Hours bled into a cold monotony. Alien guards laughed beyond the cell, trading crude jokes about dissecting humans. The boy clenched his fists, pacing. The mother braided and unbraided her daughter's hair, her calm steady as a rock against the storm. The father sat cross-legged on the floor, speaking to the dog in low tones as though the mutt understood every word. Perhaps it did. At last the commander returned, flanked by his insectoid advisor, a thin, sharp-tongued creature whose every word seemed dipped in venom. They stood outside the bars, examining their captives with detached amusement. "Pitiful," the commander said. "The galaxy feared this species once. Legends. Nothing more." He leaned closer, staring at the father. Why do you smile, human? You are chained, your brood is caged, your pet is useless. Why do you smile? The man's smile was faint, polite, unyielding. His reply was soft, each syllable brushed with courtesy. Because you've mistaken kindness for weakness. His words, so simple, so calm, made the insectoid advisor bristle. Arrogant mammal, it hissed. But the father only bowed his head slightly, as though conceding the insult. When they were gone, silence pressed heavy. The boy burst out, whispering fiercely. Why didn't you fight? You could have. His father's hand on his shoulder stopped him. Not yet. The calm tone held steel beneath it, a thread of something deeper. Every war has its season. This is not ours tonight. The girl whispered to her mother, Are we going to die? The mother's hand stroked her hair. No, love. Not while your father breathes. The father said nothing, but his eyes, those pale, unblinking eyes, fixed on the door with a weight that bent the air around him. Beyond the cell, whispers began to stir. An old archivist, skin-sagging, eyes like pools of memory, shuffled through the command deck. He clutched a tablet of records, his voice thin as dust. You fools, he muttered. You do not understand what you've done. The guards laughed, mocking the ancient. They're only humans. But his gaze was haunted. Not humans. Not this one. You've taken the family of the Baba Yaga. The name rippled through the air like a chill draft. Some guards scoffed, some chuckled nervously, but a few froze, scales tightening with instinctive dread. The insectoid advisor sneered. Old myths. Bedtime stories. Yet his mandibles clicked with unease. In the cell, the father rose to his feet. He stretched, slow and measured, like a man preparing for nothing more than a walk. His children watched him with wide eyes. The dog's ears pricked, tail rigid, sensing something. The mother met his gaze, a quiet understanding passing between them. No words, just the weight of history unspoken. The lights flickered, just once. A shudder ran through the cruiser's hull. Somewhere, deep in the black, a signal pulsed. Small. Steady. Ancient as war itself. The father smiled again, soft and patient. They think they've captured us, he murmured. His voice was so quiet it might have been mistaken for prayer. He knelt to stroke the dog's fur, whispering something only the animal seemed to understand. The dog's lips curled, a low growl thrumming like distant thunder. The boy leaned close. Dad, what are we waiting for? His father's pale eyes lifted to the ceiling, as though seeing beyond steel and stars, beyond the galaxy itself. His smile curved, almost kind. A knock at the door. And as he spoke, the Empire's comms lit up with a piercing signal, a single human phrase, slicing across frequencies, cold and undeniable. I'm coming. The Empire's halls were built to intimidate. Vast arcs of metal, polished floors that reflected light like mirrors, ceilings that dwarfed any being beneath them. Yet as the human family was led through them, the intimidation faltered, cracked by something smaller and quieter, the way the father walked. He didn't shuffle in chains. He didn't stumble like prey. He moved as though the corridors belonged to him, his steps steady, deliberate, carrying a rhythm that unsettled the soldiers meant to guard him. His eyes took in every junction, every vent, every weapon holster. It wasn't defiance, it was observation. A man memorizing a chessboard with casual patience. Rumors spread before the family had even reached the council chamber. Soldiers whispered in break rooms, mechanics exchanged wary glances, junior officers lowered their voices when they spoke. The word had escaped from the old archivist's lips and refused to die. Baba Yaga. None knew precisely what it meant. Some said it was a title, others a monster, others a story humans told their young to frighten them into obedience. Yet all agreed on one thing: if the archivist trembled at it, then it was no harmless tale. The council chamber itself was a theater of arrogance. A ring of alien species seated on thrones of steel and crystal, banners of conquered worlds fluttering above them. At the center, the family stood beneath a harsh spotlight. The father inclined his head politely to the gathered lords. The mother rested a hand protectively on the girl's shoulder. The boy stared at the banners with tight-jawed defiance. The dog sat at the father's feet, calm but watchful, eyes burning like coals. The reptilian commander announced their capture with boastful pride, his voice echoing off the walls. "Behold the humans, so fragile, so weak. We parade them as proof of the Empire's supremacy. They will stand trial, and through them, their species shall learn obedience." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Some leaned forward, amused. Others lounged back, uninterested. Only a few, the elder species who had survived long wars, remained silent. The father's smile was faint, almost apologetic, as he addressed the chamber. "I do not wish to intrude upon your triumph. You've gone to so much effort to bring us here. Thank you for your hospitality." His words dripped courtesy, but the undercurrent beneath them struck like hidden blades. The insectoid advisor hissed in irritation. "You mock us with politeness, mammal." The man bowed slightly. "On the contrary, it is the least I can offer before this customer service experience. Though I must admit, your booking process could use refinement." A ripple of confused clicks and chittering laughter passed among the guards. The sarcasm was too subtle for some, but not for all. One counselor, a scholar of the avian species with feathers streaked in silver, leaned toward her peers. "Do you not see it? His calm is not surrender. It is calculation." Her warning was dismissed with scoffs. The reptilian commander sneered. "Calculation requires power. He has none." Yet even as he spoke, the commander's tail twitched with unease. In the corridors outside, rumors multiplied. Soldiers debated in hushed tones. One recalled ancient records of Earth's wars, of cities reduced to ash by human hands. Another swore his ancestor had seen a lone squad of humans topple an armada. The younger recruits laughed it off, but the laughter rang brittle, stretched thin. Fear crept through the air ducts like smoke, unseen but suffocating. Back in the cell, the family waited. The boy paced, frustration simmering. "They laugh at us, Dad. They think we're weak." The father watched him with steady eyes. "Let them think it. Underestimation is the first step toward their defeat." The mother braided the girl's hair again, her hands steady, her voice a quiet anchor. "Patience, my son. Your father knows the seasons of war." The dog lifted its head, ears pricked at the sound of footsteps beyond the cell. Its growl was low, almost inaudible, but the boy heard it and froze. Two guards entered, sneering. One tossed a ration pack onto the floor. "Food for your vermin family. Don't choke." The boy's fists clenched, but the father's hand rested lightly on his shoulder, pinning him with calm weight. "Thank you," the father said simply. His voice was so sincere that for a fleeting second, the guard felt uneasy, as though he were the one in chains. They left quickly, muttering insults louder than necessary to mask their disquiet. The boy hissed when the door closed. "Why thank them? Why act like we're weak?" His father's gaze softened, though his tone carried iron beneath velvet. "Because kindness is a mask sharper than steel. When the strike comes, they will never see it coming." The boy's anger cooled into silence, the lesson carved into him deeper than discipline. In the officers' mess, whispers boiled louder. One young lieutenant asked what Baba Yaga meant. An older veteran snapped at him to hold his tongue. "It means death walks wearing a human face. It means war without end. Pray you never learn more." The lieutenant laughed nervously, but later, alone, he checked the archives. What he found made his scales pale: records redacted, campaigns marked classified, battlefields where empires had vanished with nothing but boot prints left behind. He shut the file with shaking claws. The next day, the council met again. The insectoid advisor pressed for spectacle, a public execution, broadcast across the empire as proof of dominance. The reptilian commander roared agreement. But the silver-feathered scholar shook her head. "Do not touch them. You do not cage lightning without consequence." Her words were drowned in jeers. "Old tales," the commander spat. "We rule by fear, not by superstition." Yet even he could not shake the memory of the father's polite smile. In the cell, the girl whispered to her mother, "Why do they hate us?" The mother kissed her hair. "Because they don't understand us, little one. And what you don't understand, you fear." The father, listening, added softly, "And what they fear, they will try to destroy, unless we teach them differently." The boy asked, "How?" His father's smile was patient. "By surviving longer than their hate does." That night, the lights flickered again. The dog stood, pacing the cell, nose pressed to the seams of the wall as though sensing currents beyond metal. The father stroked its fur. "Soon," he whispered. The boy pressed close. "What's coming?" The father's eyes lifted to the ceiling, where the faint hum of comms buzzed like distant thunder. His voice was calm, almost reverent. "A reminder." At dawn cycle, alarms rang through the cruiser. Officers scrambled, screens flashing interference across every channel. The reptilian commander stormed into the control deck, bellowing for answers. "Report." A technician's claws trembled over the console. "Sir, it's not a weapon. It's a transmission." The commander snarled. "From where?" The technician swallowed. "From everywhere. Every frequency." The sound crackled into the chamber, piercing, human in tone, chilling in its simplicity. "I'm coming." The words repeated, echoing across the Empire's networks, unstoppable, undeniable. Every soldier froze. Every counselor stared. The phrase carried no heat, no boast, no volume, just certainty. Like a knock on the door in the middle of the night. The reptilian commander roared to drown his own fear. "Trace it! Block it!" But the signal seeped through every firewall, every jammer, repeating calmly, endlessly. "I'm coming." In the holding cell, the boy stared at his father, heart hammering. "Who is it? Who's coming?" The father's smile was faint, but his eyes shone with steel. He crouched beside the boy, speaking in a voice so soft it was almost a secret. "Your uncle. Your shadow. The one they call when monsters need to be buried." The girl clutched the dog tighter, though the mutt wagged its tail, as though it already knew. Across the cruiser, silence fell heavy. Officers avoided each other's eyes. Soldiers checked weapons with hands that shook. The archivist sat alone in the dark, whispering to no one. "You fools. You've summoned the storm." And somewhere in the endless dark beyond the stars, a craft moved, small, unarmed, steady in its approach. It carried no insignia, no escort, no banners. Just a man in simple clothes, a duffel at his side, and eyes that promised the end of empires. The Empire thought it had captured prey. Instead, it had set a stage. The Empire was not used to silence. Its ships, its courts, its barracks, all were filled with the steady hum of authority, the clamor of command, the drone of unquestioned order. But after the transmission spread across every channel, silence took root like a sickness. It grew in mess halls, in weapon bays, in the very marrow of soldiers who had mocked the humans only hours earlier. Silence and fear, ancient enemies of empires. The reptilian commander roared louder than ever, trying to crush the unease with volume. He summoned war councils, deployed fleets to scan for the origin of the message, ordered engineers to dismantle comm arrays. Yet the words continued, untraceable, inescapable, repeating in perfect calm. "I'm coming." Each repetition gnawed deeper, as if the phrase were less sound than inevitability. Inside the holding cell, the family endured the growing tension like a stone endures a storm, seemingly unchanged, but shaped all the same. The boy's anger had sharpened into questions, restless and urgent. "Dad, if this Baba Yaga is real, if he's really coming, why don't they just kill us? End it before he gets here." The father's reply was measured, his tone like iron wrapped in velvet. "Because even they know. Killing us would not stop him. It would only light the fuse faster." The mother glanced at her husband with quiet understanding, her hand resting protectively on the girl's hair. The dog, curled by the father's boots, growled at every flicker of the lights, as though it sensed that the ship itself was trembling. The council debated for hours. The insectoid advisor demanded the family's execution. We must prove the Empire fears nothing. The silver-feathered scholar countered with urgency. If the myths are true, you cannot touch them. They are the line between us and him. The reptilian commander slammed a clawed fist onto the table. We rule through strength. Let him come. We will crush him, and his ghost stories with him. Yet his tail lashed uncontrollably, betraying the fear slithering under his scales. Among the lower ranks, gossip flourished. One mechanic swore he had seen humans fight before, ordinary soldiers with ordinary weapons who refused to retreat, who fought until the last breath. A medic whispered of a battle where humans, outnumbered 100 to 1, had turned the tide with nothing but cunning traps and merciless resolve. They don't fight to win, she said, voice hushed. They fight to end you. The younger recruits laughed nervously, but their hands shook when they polished their rifles. In the cell, the father sat cross-legged, calm as a monk. He taught his son a card trick, flipping the deck with patient precision. The boy tried and failed, tried again, frustration bubbling. "Why now?" he muttered. "Why care about cards when we're prisoners?" His father's smile was faint, steady. "Because control begins here." He tapped his son's chest lightly. "Not out there. If your mind trembles, your hands will follow. And if your hands falter, so will your will. Learn the trick. Own the moment." The boy tried again, slower this time, and the card flipped neatly. He looked up, wide-eyed. The father nodded. "See, even in chains, mastery begins with patience." The mother hummed softly, weaving calm into the girl's hair as she braided it again. The girl asked, "Will he bring toys when he comes?" The mother kissed her forehead. "No, love. He will bring silence for the monsters." The girl considered this, then hugged the dog tighter. The mutt licked her cheek, tail thumping once, as though agreeing. Meanwhile, the archivist moved like a ghost through the ship's archives. He accessed ancient records, fragments buried under layers of redaction. His hands shook as he read of worlds reduced to ash by small human contingents, of fleets undone by strategies no machine could predict. He found one phrase repeated in margins, scrawled by terrified scribes across centuries: "They smile before they strike." He closed the records with trembling claws, whispering to himself, "You have already lost." The Empire's sensors soon picked up movement, a lone craft approaching through the void. Small. Ordinary. No weapons detected. No escort. It moved without haste, as though the galaxy itself would part before it. The commander barked for it to be destroyed. Missiles locked on, but systems flickered, targeting scrambled, alarms blaring error codes. The lone craft continued undeterred. Engineers swore, scrambling to restore control. The commander roared, "Fire manually." But the ship's cannons refused, their systems glitching in ways that made no sense. As though the craft was less a vessel and more a promise the galaxy itself refused to deny. In the cell, the father lifted his head, eyes glinting. The boy asked, "Is it him?" The father smiled, almost tenderly. "It's always him." The dog barked once, sharp and certain, as if echoing his words. Panic rippled through the cruiser. Officers shouted over each other, demanding action. Some begged to flee, others to attack. The insectoid advisor screamed for the family's execution before the craft could dock. The silver-feathered scholar spread her wings, her voice steady. "Kill them, and you will bring a storm the Empire cannot withstand. Let them live, and perhaps we delay it." The council fractured, old alliances fraying under the weight of fear. The lone craft latched onto the cruiser's docking bay. No alarms sounded this time. No breaches, no explosions. Just a quiet hiss as the airlock sealed. Soldiers flooded the bay, weapons drawn, formations tight. The commander stood at the front, armored, claws flexing. The insectoid advisor hissed threats, mandibles clattering. They waited for an army. They waited for a monster. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He was unremarkable at first glance. No armor, no weapons visible. Simple clothes, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. His hair streaked with gray, his eyes calm and unreadable. He looked like a traveler, a neighbor, a man you might forget at a market. But the silence that followed his step was absolute. Soldiers who had mocked the myth now felt their scales tighten, their mandibles quiver, their limbs lock. He bowed his head slightly. "Thank you for keeping my family safe," he said softly. The words were polite, gracious even. But they landed like blades, sharper than any weapon. The commander snarled to mask his unease. "You are nothing but a man." The human tilted his head. "Yes. And you've made the mistake of learning what a man is when he has something to lose." His smile was faint, his tone courteous, but the weight behind his words pressed down like gravity itself. The insectoid advisor screeched for his capture. Soldiers surged forward. The man's duffel slid to the floor with a dull thud. He moved faster than sight, faster than reason, disarming the first guard with a twist of wrist, dropping another with a strike that looked almost lazy. No wasted movement, no flourish, just inevitability in motion. The duffel opened not with guns but with tools, rope, a hammer, knives worn with use. He wielded them with precision, with the calm efficiency of someone who had done this not once but countless times. The bay filled with chaos, aliens shouting, weapons firing, bodies falling. And still, the man moved through it like water flowing downhill, unstoppable, silent. In the holding cell, the family heard the distant echoes, shouts, crashes, alarms. The boy's eyes widened. "It's him." The girl whispered, "He's here." The father closed his book, marking the page again with calm fingers. "Always on time," he murmured. The dog barked once, sharp and triumphant. In the command deck, screens lit with images of the bay. Soldiers fell one by one. The man never raised his voice, never looked hurried. He simply advanced, precise, inevitable. The reptilian commander roared, but even his voice cracked. The insectoid advisor shrieked orders, but soldiers hesitated, their fear outweighing discipline. The silver-feathered scholar whispered, "The storm is here." And deep in the heart of the Empire's cruiser, in a cell meant to break spirits, the father looked at his son, his wife, his daughter. His voice was soft, but every word struck true. "This is not rescue. This is a reminder. They think they hold us, but it is we who hold them." His son whispered, "Why?" The father's eyes gleamed like steel in moonlight. "Because they needed to remember what humanity is. And he is our memory." The lights flickered again, brighter this time, as though the ship itself was bowing to inevitability. Alarms howled, systems faltered, voices cracked. And as the man advanced through the bay, leaving silence in his wake, every being on that cruiser understood the truth. They had not captured prey. They had invited the storm. The family sat in silence, the dog growling low and steady, the boy's fists clenched with something fiercer than fear. The girl whispered a single word into her mother's shoulder, soft and certain, "Home." The mother closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks, not of sorrow but of release. The father rested a hand on his son's shoulder, grounding him in the middle of the chaos. And then, as the sounds of battle grew nearer, a shadow passed over the cell's door. The lock clicked. The hinges groaned. The boy held his breath. The girl clutched the dog. The mother rose slowly to her feet. And the father smiled, pale eyes unblinking, as the door began to open. The cell door opened with the hiss of surrender, metal groaning as though reluctant to yield. A shadow filled the frame, not hulking nor monstrous, but calm, composed, carrying the weight of inevitability. His eyes, gray as storms over steel seas, scanned the family. They softened only when they landed on the girl clutching the dog. "You've grown," he said quietly, voice steady as a hand on a shoulder. The girl blinked up at him, awe and relief woven into her small features. The dog barked once, tail lashing with recognition, and surged forward into his arms. He knelt, unhurried, burying a hand in its scruff. "Good boy. You kept them safe." The mutt whined, pressing its head against his chest, as though reporting every injustice. The boy stared, half in disbelief, half in reverence. "You're real," he whispered. The man's faint smile was edged with something older than comfort. "Real enough." He straightened, turning to the father. For a heartbeat, the air held a silent conversation between them, brothers bound by blood, by wars unspoken, by debts carved into scars. The father inclined his head, the faintest acknowledgement. "You came." The reply was soft but final. "I always do." Outside the cell, alarms screamed. The Empire scrambled like a hive struck open, soldiers rushing through corridors that now felt narrower, darker, every shadow a threat. The reptilian commander bellowed orders, desperation cracking his voice. "Contain him. Do not let him reach the command deck." But no order could mask the fear curling in his chest. He had seen the footage from the docking bay, the man dismantling squads with precision, without hurry, without mercy. It was not battle. It was harvest. The family moved behind him now, guarded not by weapons but by presence. Soldiers tried to advance, but their steps faltered when the man's gaze slid over them. He didn't threaten. He didn't posture. He simply looked, and in that look they felt their deaths measured, inevitable. The boy whispered, "How does he do that?" The father's reply was quiet. "Because fear is louder than bullets, son. And he has mastered its silence." At a junction, a squad dared block the way. Their weapons shook in clawed hands, mandibles clicking, scales flaring in primal terror. The man set the dog down gently. It padded forward, teeth bared. He raised a hand, calm. "Leave. Go home to your families. This is not your fight." For a moment, hope flickered in their eyes. Then the commander's voice barked over comms, shoving them toward suicide. "Cowards! Stand or die where you are." The man's head tilted slightly, sorrow brushing his features. "So be it." He moved, and when the silence returned, none remained standing. The dog wagged its tail once and trotted back, muzzle wet with proof of loyalty. The family pressed onward, corridors bending under the weight of inevitability. The mother, silent until now, spoke softly, her words for him alone. "You shouldn't have come." His eyes flicked to hers, unreadable. "You're my family." She shook her head. "You gave that life up." His voice was low, calm as ever. "I don't give up. I wait." Their eyes met, and the history between them burned unsaid. Sacrifices, betrayals, a love abandoned for the sake of survival. The boy glanced between them, confused, but the father placed a hand on his shoulder. "Not now," he murmured. They reached the command deck at last. The doors loomed, armored, sealed against siege. The commander waited inside with a full contingent, weapons leveled, the insectoid advisor screeching threats. The council members gathered like carrion birds around a corpse. The commander's voice, amplified by speakers, boomed down the corridor. "You will not enter. You are flesh, we are empire. You are myth, we are reality. Leave now or be erased." The man stepped forward, placing a hand against the cold steel of the door. His smile was faint, his tone gentle. "You've mistaken empire for eternity. Nothing lasts forever. Not even you." He pressed once, and the door shuddered as though struck by an unseen storm. Alarms shrieked. Locks groaned. Metal warped. The doors yawned open like the maw of a beast forced to spit out what it had swallowed. Inside, soldiers trembled in their formation, weapons locked but hands shaking. The insectoid advisor shrieked at them to fire, but none moved. The commander roared, stepping forward, armor gleaming. "I am not afraid of you." The man's gaze slid to him, calm, steady, patient. "Yes, you are. And that's why you've already lost." With no flourish, no wasted breath, he advanced. The fight was not battle. It was judgment. The commander lunged, claws raking, but each strike met only empty air. A hammer blow to the chest sent him sprawling. He rose, roaring, but the duffel's knife whispered once across his throat, clean and final. The Empire's roar died with a gurgle, his body collapsing under banners meant to declare eternity. Silence smothered the chamber. The soldiers lowered their weapons, eyes wide. The insectoid advisor screeched, mandibles clattering, retreating toward the council seats. "Monster! Demon! End him. The man tilted his head, almost curious. I am neither. I am memory. I am consequence. He raised his hand, not in strike but in command. Run. And they did, scattering like insects before flame. The council remained, frozen in dread. The silver-feathered scholar spread her wings, bowing low. The myths were true, she whispered. The Baba Yaga walks. The man regarded her with quiet eyes. Not myths. Warnings. She met his gaze, trembling but unflinching. What will you do with us? He stepped closer, the weight of inevitability pressing them into silence. Nothing. Humanity will decide. I am only the messenger. His eyes flicked to the father. And the message has been delivered. The father stepped forward, chains still on his wrists, but his back straight, his voice calm. You captured us to humiliate a people. Instead, you have shown the galaxy who we are. Not prey. Not subjects. Apex. His smile was polite, his tone soft, but every word drove like nails. You thought us fragile. You mistook kindness for weakness. But the truth is simple. His eyes swept the chamber, holding each alien in turn. You should have left us alone. The dog barked, the sound echoing like a gavel. The mother took her children's hands, leading them to his side. The boy's chest swelled with something fiercer than fear, pride, sharp and unyielding. The girl leaned into her mother, whispering, It's over. The mother's eyes glistened. For us, yes. For them. She trailed off, her gaze flicking to the counselors trembling on their thrones. The man slung his duffel over his shoulder, his movements unhurried. He knelt to stroke the dog once more, his voice low, carrying weight only the family fully understood. War awaits them, and we will bring it. He stood, pale eyes unblinking, his smile faint and almost kind. But tonight, we go home. He turned, leading them from the command deck, leaving silence in his wake. Behind them, the council collapsed into fearful whispers. The archivist entered, his old eyes heavy with certainty. You have summoned what you cannot control. The Baba Yaga does not come to conquer. He comes to remind. And his reminders are death. His words carried like prophecy, seeding fear across every world tied to the Empire. As they walked back through corridors littered with silence, the boy tugged at his uncle's sleeve. What now? The man's eyes flicked down, gray storms softening at last. Now you learn. Because one day, it will be you who must carry this smile. The boy swallowed, but nodded, his fists clenched not with rage but with resolve. The girl tugged at the dog's ear, whispering secrets again. The mother walked close to the father, their silence saying what words could not. At the docking bay, their shuttle waited, untouched, as though the Empire itself feared to desecrate it further. They boarded in silence, the hum of the engines a promise of return. The man lingered at the ramp, gaze sweeping the bay one final time. Soldiers lined the walls, weapons lowered, eyes wide. None dared move. None dared speak. His voice carried like a whisper through stone. War awaits you. Then he stepped inside, the doors sealing shut. As the shuttle pulled away, the Empire's cruiser hung motionless, vast and gleaming, yet hollowed of pride. The transmission ceased, leaving only echoes where arrogance once roared. And across the galaxy, whispers spread like wildfire. The Baba Yaga had walked again. Humanity had been underestimated again. And empires, no matter how vast, had been reminded again that kindness hides claws sharper than steel. In the quiet of the shuttle, the family sat close. The boy stared out the viewport, watching the cruiser shrink behind them. They'll come after us, he said. His father's reply was calm, certain. Let them try. The girl stroked the dog's ears, whispering, You were so brave. The dog sighed, content at last. The mother leaned her head against her husband's shoulder, her eyes closed, her breath steady. The man set his duffel on the floor, folding his hands atop it, calm as ever. His eyes closed, but his voice, soft and final, lingered in the air. It's begun. And in that silence, the